He was so disfigured that it's impossible to understand what breed he is, but after a haircut, he cannot be recognized. Some years ago, a few dog groomers visited an old shelter in Tokyo. They'd been called there to help a dog abandoned by his owners and thrown out on the streets. The groomers were totally speechless when they saw the condition that the dog, named Ginta, was in. His fur was so overgrown that it was impossible to see the shape of his body and face. His unkempt, dirty fur had matted itself into dreadlocks and wrapped around his body and legs. Nobody knew how long Ginta had been like this. It could have been months, maybe years. And it was difficult to believe was that Ginta was actually a standard poodle. The dog, now called Ginta, or Silver Boy in Japanese, had obviously been neglected by his owner. But fortunately, Ginta landed at the shelter and was surrounded by people who cared for him. Initially, Ginta was nervous meeting the visitors, but soon he was sniffing them eagerly. Although the dog had been abused and abandoned, his good-natured spirit seemed intact, and Ginta quickly realized that his new friends just wanted to help. After Ginta had become acquainted with everybody, they began shaving off his matted fur. The groomers used an electric shaver and began with the fur around his face. They carefully dug into the mass, searching for the root of his fur. The size of the clumps of the fur that the groomers removed was incredible. And as you can see, when the clumps came off, groomers could see how small Ginta actually was. It took some time finishing shaving Ginta, and there was a lot of gravel and dirt nestled into his fur, which slowed down the process. Many thanks to all the animal lovers who care for vulnerable dogs. We hope that Ginta found the loving family he deserves. Another incredible rescue. A severely neglected poodle who had been living under a bed for 2 years has been adopted after getting a life-saving glow-up makeover. Richmond SPCA in Richmond, Virginia, revealed Wednesday the heartwarming story about a 7-year-old poodle that had been dropped off at the shelter by its former owner in April. According to his former owner, the dog, which the animal shelter called Lionheart, had been living under a bed for 2 years. The Richmond SPCA determined that Lionheart's thickly matted fur had been preventing the pooch from eating, drinking, or even walking properly during that time. I saw him when he first arrived, and I couldn't tell which was the front end and which was the back end, Richmond SPCA CEO Robin Starr told Today. You couldn't see anything. I'm sure he was in great discomfort. Director of Veterinary Medical Services for the SPCA, Dr. Angela Ivey, said that staffers wouldn't even have known that Lionheart was a poodle had his former owner not said so. The shelter staff then shaved off pounds of Lionheart's fur, which was said to have contained a tremendous amount of fecal matter and bacteria, and clipped his nails so that they could take stock of his condition. That was when they discovered that he had sores on his skin, suffered from hookworm, and had terrible untreated periodontal disease. Lionheart was treated for all of his issues and also neutered at that time. Ivy said that when Lionheart woke up from the general anesthesia he'd been put under for his treatment, he was like a different dog, and noted that it was a miracle that he was trusting people to begin with after being neglected for so long. He almost immediately, when he woke up, was bouncy and happy and full of energy. I'm sure he had lots of pent-up energy after all that time, Starr added. Starr said that after Lionheart was shaved down to his skin, they put him in a sweater to keep him warm. After 3 months of being cared for, Lionheart was ready to be adopted by a couple that the Richmond SPCA knew was looking for a small dog. The couple, who did not comment on the adoption, apparently renamed the poodle Cody. Starr said that they take Cody with them everywhere they go and just adore him, adding that the dog story is the ultimate Cinderella story.